It began with a sharing of data that we identified certain objects, certain problems that we had in common. And then I was making observations with the at the National Observatory in Arizona. Mexican astronomers here were making observations in Baja California, and we were able to share data, and then this led to a better interpretation scientifically of the objects that we were studying. After that, we simply would come up with problems in common, which we would then address. It was a give and take. So it's something where we had different skills and access to different pieces of equipment. For example, I frequently observe with the Hubble Space Telescope, and as a USA astronomer, we get a certain large fraction of that time. And I can share this with people here who are interested in the very same problems. And they have access, the people here have access to the National Observatory at San Pedro Martir. And the equipment there is the best in the world for the type of problems that's of interest to me. The spectrographs that they have there in particular don't exist on even the very big telescopes. It's a wonderful observing site. It's very, very dark, and there are many types of programs that can exploit a high and dark site like that. But I really don't understand the role of very big telescopes, because I think the huge telescopes, because I think that they are all presuming that a step in technology that has not yet happened will occur, and that is the correction for the smearing effects of the Earth's atmosphere. Right now we can only do that for small areas of the sky. To make really big telescopes worthwhile, you need them to have adaptive optics over a large area. From my area, which is an area that we're interested in, gaseous nebulae that are extended sources, and they are not much brighter than the sky. And therefore, it's specialized equipment that can exploit the site, the darkness of the site, rather than the equipment that requires a very, very large aperture. But I'm a specialist, and that's a specialist answer to your question. When I was a young assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, there was an even younger pair, a husband-wife pair of graduate students, Manuel Pembert and Sylvia Pembert. And Manuel actually worked with me when I was there on the faculty at Berkeley. And of course, both of them were very strong scientists. I had been a graduate student before that at the University of Wisconsin, where a number of Mexican astronomers went as graduate students. And so there's an interaction with the people who have been at the same institution. So for me, Mexican astronomy has always been a major force in my career. And I think that's in part because astronomy in Mexico is like science in general in Mexico. Wisely, people have decided not to try to do everything, but rather to do things in a fewer areas very well. And I'm happy that my area of interest overlaps with one of the areas of specialization, astronomy, and even within astronomy, one of the areas that is emphasized here are the areas that I choose to work in. So it's been a natural thing for me that there are more astrophysicists, astronomers that I can talk to professionally here in Mexico than anywhere else in the world. There's a group in Beijing that is not as big as the group here. But in Europe, for example, there are few people in many different institutions. So it's not like you can do at CRyA where you have a conversation with one person and, I don't know what this really means. Well, you go down the hall two doors and there's someone can probably answer your question. So, that's highly unusual and reflects the fact that from the very earliest days you had, after Mexico nationally started the program of creating scholarships to send people abroad for graduate training. And it all goes back to the wise decisions that were made back in the late 1950s. Well, to me, it's a world-class facility, and I think it's generally viewed that way, even by people outside of my specialty, that it's not as big as some institutions, even within Mexico, but in terms of the number of people in the areas that are treated here, it's a significant grouping of people. So I vote with my feet. That is, by coming here, usually with my own research money, my own nickel, although I am happy to say I've been hosted many times too, but the fact that I, Gary Ferlin, a world-class astronomer, and many other people will take their research money from other countries, the US in particular, and come down here to spend that money to be able to work with the people here. That's the most effective form of voting. That is, otherwise I can sit here and just say nice things about CRyA, but when I see that in the past I have come here to do my research, others are doing the same thing from many different parts of the world, that's the best measure that this is a world-class facility. Absolutely, because it has a relatively few areas in which the people are doing research, but they're doing it extraordinarily well. So it means that people in fields outside of the ones treated here will of course not have much knowledge about or much opinion. They will not have an informed opinion about what happens in CRyA because they don't understand that part of astronomy. But those people who deal with the parts of astronomy done here, I think uniformly consider this a major institution in those fields.